West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags and we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
Hey, hello, fellow Americans. Here we go, Wednesday, January 20. Great to see you today on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. And can you believe it? 1 year from today, just go figure, 1 year from today, we will be watching the inauguration of the 45th President of the United States of America. Do you think Carly Fiorina is already rehearsing her lines? Or is Hillary rehearsing her lines? Or how about Joe Biden? Remember, I always told you it's not impossible that Joe could still jump into the race. Well, I'll tell you, or maybe it could even be President Trump. Donald Trump riding high today after getting the great big endorsement last night from Sarah Palin. Really? I mean, we know why she did it. She's so desperate for attention to get back in the spotlight, she would endorse anybody. But what does Donald Trump get out of Sarah Palin's endorsement? Certainly no votes. No Ted Cruz voters are going to say, oh, I'm done with Ted now that Sarah Palin's with Donald Trump. Maybe Donald Trump just got another little time in the spotlight. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton has said, looks like it's going to be a long slog against Bernie after all. And she's vowed now she's going to build ground operations in a lot of other states because she thinks that she could be locked in a primary contest against Bernie Sanders until June or all the way to the convention. And the Supreme Court has decided that they're going to hear the challenges to President Obama's executive actions on immigration reform. If only Congress has done its job, the president would not have to sign those executive actions. That's just a sample of what we'll be talking about today here on the Bill Press Show. Give us a call. Join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine,
Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad.
as a friend,
as a husband,
as a wife,
as an American,
as an American,
as an American,
as a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
January 20, 1 year from today, we'll be watching the inauguration of the next president of the United States.
Holy cow.
Are you ready for President? I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows?
You got a year to get ready.
President George Pataki. Oh, no, he dropped out. That's right. What do you say? Hello, everybody. Welcome on this Wednesday, January 20. It is the Bill Press Show. So good to see you. How about it? Coming to you right live from right here from our nation's capital. Coming to you live across this great land of ours. You are there on the radio. We're there with you. You're there on television. We're there with you here on your local progressive talk radio station and on Free Speech TV. Thank you so much for joining us today. Lots to talk about. Perhaps the biggest political debate of the entire century last night was Sarah Palin endorsing Donald Trump. How could you miss that? Oh, my God. It was made for Hollywood. Made for Saturday Night Live is what it was. And the Americans freed from Iran are still resting up, getting medical attention at Landstuhl Air Force Base in Germany, soon heading back here to the United States. We're keeping our eye on them. And President Obama going off to Detroit today to celebrate the resurgence and the renaissance of Detroit after meeting yesterday in the White House with the mayor of Flint, Michigan, to see what possible help the United States government could provide the poor citizens of Flint stuck with that polluted water thanks to the government letting them down across the board. The EPA let them down, the state of Michigan let them down, and the city of Flint let them down as well. And now they got a long, long road back. Great to see you today, and our team this morning, all in place. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
Hey. All right. Ray Rogers on the phones. 866-55-PRESS. Give us a call. She'll take care of you and put you on the air, at least if you got something worthwhile to say. We don't just take anybody. Cyprian Bolding. Are we on?
He's here.
Camera's on?
He's here. We're on, man.
Oh, all right. We're on. Okay. Yeah, check it out. Make sure pictures are coming across here. Anyhow, Cyprian on the job, as always, our videographer. And so, by the way, this is good. We talked about it yesterday a little bit. It's been fixed. All fixed. The problem that the Academy had with the all-white ballot with the Oscars.
They got that taken care of?
Yep, they got that taken care of.
Oh, great.
Jimmy Kimmel had a representative in from the Academy last night who told how they're going to fix this. Why didn't we think of this, right? It's just rename some of the movies.
Well, we're modifying many of the Oscar-nominated films to be more inclusive. We have The Revenant.
What
is being altered to be. That is going to become The Revenant Al Sharpton. Did you see the movie Steve Jobs?
I did, yes.
Well, for purposes of award consideration, that will now be called Steve Harvey.
Okay. Doesn't that completely change the movie, though?
Well, in the new version, Steve accidentally announces the iPhone 5 instead of the iPhone 6. Then he has to go back and apologize.
Oh, all right. Well, that's even more fun in a way.
That's
easy.
Complicated.
That's easy enough.
Easy way to fix. You can go down the line, but we'll stop right there. You get the idea. Pretty embarrassing, and everybody's wanting to see what Chris Rock is going to do. He's either going to bow out, which is unlikely, or just be merciless
Yeah.
at the awards.
Go either way.
Merciless, right? I tell you.
I would be ready for absolute flames from Chris Rock. I think he's going to just fire on him.
Yeah, I'd love to see him do all the black people in the audience stand up.
Yeah, right.
Or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
Oof. Man, he could have a field day indeed. And we had a field day last night watching Sarah Palin endorse Donald Trump. We'll talk about that here at the top of the hour with some of the best political reporters in the country joining us today. David Jackson from USA Today, Kyle Kondik, University of Virginia, Ben Schreckinger from Politico, Emily Kahn from Mashable, right? And then the number 2 guy at the Teamsters Union, Secretary-Treasurer Ken Hall, will be here in studio as well. Great lineup, but first...
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. You know, being ISIS is tough work, man. In fact, it's such a tough time for ISIS right now that they're actually slashing salaries if you are working with ISIS. Now, here's the deal. ISIS soldiers earn between $400 and $1,200 a month, plus they get a $50 stipend for their wives and $25, this is per month, for each child.
By the way, that's a lot of money in that part of the world.
Sure is. Well, it turns out they might be overpaying their fighters because leaks that have come out of ISIS documents show that they are going to be cutting that pay in half because they just, they need to start conserving a little bit. Part of this is good news in the sense that their money is drying up a little bit, but
belt tightening.
Yeah, right. I mean, they gotta run a tight ship over there. Part of this is good news. Like I said, because funds are drying up, but the other, but part of it is also bad news because they have more and more fighters, right? So that they're trying to sort of spread this out. So that's a good news, bad news situation. But I guess at the end of the day, if they're running out of money, that's a good thing for everybody.
Getting a paycheck from ISIS, I wouldn't want to report that to the IRS.
No. Earlier this week on Jeopardy, something happened that you never, ever, ever see. Now, you know how this works. If you win Jeopardy, you go on and you were the champion for the next night, and you keep playing until you lose. Well, all 3 of the contestants failed to answer the final Jeopardy clue, and they all bet everything, which means they ended with every single contestant having $0. They all got it wrong, and they all bet the house, and this has never happened before. So Alex Trebek had to come back and say, we have no returning champion. Tomorrow we just introduced 3 new players. None of you are coming back. The question, by the way, or the clue was, a 1957 event led to the creation of a National Historic Site in this city, signed into law by a president whose library is there, too.
What city?
Oh,
I see. That's
what
the
is?
question. Okay. What is Flint, Michigan?
Little Rock, Arkansas. Is a reference to the Little Rock Nine that happened in 1957, and Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton's library.
Signed that, exactly. So but nobody knew it. Nobody knew it. The Carolina Panthers of the NFL are on quite the roll. They are on their way to the Super Bowl. They're almost there, but they may have one obstacle in the way. Hoverboards. You know these hoverboards that everybody's riding on. So I love this story because the head coach, Ron Rivera, had to come out and say that they are banning hoverboards within the organization because, quote, the players, quote, were drag racing them in the frickin' hallway, end quote. So these players all have hoverboards, and they were racing each other down the hallway of the Panthers facilities, and he's afraid that somebody's going to get really, really hurt. So they've been banned.
Easily.
You can easily get hurt on one of those jobs.
Yeah. Christmas time, we were visiting friends, and their son had one of these hoverboards. He's about, 13 or so. Man, he was flying through that house on that hoverboard. Unbelievable.
We have a firm hoverboard policy in my house.
And they've been fire started by the batteries.
No, they're dangerous, man.
Yeah. They're worse than segways, and you know how I hate them.
I do.
Here we go. It was some of the best political theater we have ever seen in this country. Yes, indeed. She gets crazier and crazier. And, of course, Donald Trump is already crazy. When you put the two of them together, Sarah Palin and Donald Trump, it is worth the price of admission. I was out at a very wonderful and a very fancy dinner last night at George Washington University at the president's house, if you please. And I get a text in the middle of dinner from producer Peter Ogburn, who says, I hope you're watching this. I'm crying. I'm laughing so hard watching Sarah Palin.
I have to tell you,
Donald Trump. And I was so bummed that here I was in this room with all these wonderful people, but I'm not near a television.
We got word that Sarah Palin was going to endorse Donald Trump last night, and we heard it was going to happen around 6 o'clock. So at 6 o'clock, I turned on the TV. And we were, having dinner over in the dining room, and sort of had the TV on the background because knew it was going to be running late. And everybody's talking Sarah Palin, Sarah Palin, Sarah Palin. And I had a very bizarre experience where my kids asked me, "Who is Sarah Palin?"
Oh well.
And imagine explaining Sarah Palin to someone who has never heard of her before.
Remember, it was 2008.
Yeah, yeah.
So your kids would not.
They have no clue,
No,
and
right.
and to try and explain what a Sarah Palin is.
Well, she's this dumb whatever, right? Who came out of Alaska, dragged out of Alaska by John McCain, and actually made anointed as the vice presidential candidate of the United States. It still boggles your mind to think that John McCain would do something as stupid as that, and that so many Americans would fall for it. So last night, look, here's the honest truth. Sarah Palin, Sarah who, right? Your kids aren't the only ones who kind of forgotten about Sarah Palin. Her star had certainly faded. And so she's thinking, how can I get back in the mix? How can I get back in the mix? And she saw an opening. Well, of course, the only way to get any buzz, the only way to get any attention around here is to endorse Donald Trump because he's sucking up all the media attention. And Donald Trump says, whoa, the only way to get back in number one here, right, at least in terms of media spotlight, and get the spotlight off of Ted Cruz is to do something totally nuts like getting Sarah Palin's endorsement. So it was made to order kind of for both of them.
It was beautiful.
Oh, yeah. And Donald Trump announces her in Trumpian style.
This is a person who I've known for a long time, who I've respected for so long, an incredible husband, an incredible family. And somebody that when I heard that she was going to endorse me, I was so honored. You have no idea how honored.
Oh, yeah. I was just so honored. You have no idea how honored. And she, of course, she's getting on board the train that's gone all the way to the White House.
Todd and I and a couple of our friends here from Alaska lending our support for the next president of our great United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
To watch her, to hear that again, I can't describe to you.
I miss her.
Like, I was euphoric last night when she was talking. I forgot what it was like to watch her begin a sentence and really have no idea where it's going to end.
No.
Just a straight ramble of where she was going. She praised Donald Trump in his book, The Art of the Dill. You ever?
No.
I'm just such a big fan of the book, The Art of the Dill. She meant to say skirmishes. She said squirmishes. I was screaming, hollering, laughing at my television last night.
But I'll tell you, nobody can describe those people who don't like Donald Trump or Democrats better than, I think that's who she's talking about. Again, it's one of those sentences where you just wonder, what did she say? I think she's talking about liberals or Democrats.
Some of them even whispering they're ready to throw in for Hillary over Trump because they can't afford to see the status quo go. Otherwise, they won't be able to be slurping off the gravy train that's been feeding them all these years. They don't want that to end.
Oh, man.
Slurping off the gravy train.
Slurping off the gravy train.
Yeah. And in the back of the room, those reporters just couldn't believe what was happening.
Mr. Trump, you're right. Look back there in the press box. Heads are spinning. Media heads are spinning. This is going to be so much fun.
We're in a very interesting spot with Sarah Palin where, she has genuinely stopped caring about how stupid she looks. Right? Like, she doesn't care.
No, right.
She doesn't care. She tried to kind of protect it a little bit back when she was running for office, but now she's convinced that everybody's out to get her, so she says whatever she wants.
Oh, yeah.
It's glorious.
I know. No, it really is.
It's glorious.
And so now, she said, now, of course, the Cruz people are going to say, well, and some conservatives are saying, you can't support Donald Trump or Sarah Palin because he's not conservative enough. Sarah Palin says, nonsense.
How about the rest of us? Right-wing and bitter, clinging, proud clingers of our guns, our God, and our religions and our Constitution. Tell us that we're not red enough? Yeah, coming from the establishment, right.
Right-wing
Oh,
and
my
guns,
God.
clinging, bitter.
Dude.
Oh, God, I'm telling you. It is so great. And then finally, did you know, I didn't realize this, that opium is actually an acronym. Opium is an acronym for other people's money. I didn't realize that, but that's what fuels Washington.
You know that he doesn't get his power, his high, off of opium, other people's money. Like a lot of dopes in Washington do. They're addicted to opium, where they take other people's money, and then their high is getting to redistribute it.
Oh my God! So here's let's talk about this. Here's my question: is why?
Oh my God!
I kind of get again why Sarah Palin would endorse Donald Trump, because she's desperate to get back into the spotlight. She wants to be talked about again. She wants to be a big player in 2016, and so this is the way to do it. I mean, all this publicity that she got last night and this morning, here we are talking about it. But why Donald Trump? What does she bring Donald Trump? Will you tell me that? 866-55-PRESS. Do you think that Ted Cruz voters are suddenly going to say, oh, man, I'm out of here, man. I like Ted or Rick Santorum or Mike. But no, if Sarah Palin's with Donald Trump, that's where I've got to be. I don't think Sarah Palin could even deliver Wasilla, Alaska. 866-55-PRESS. Maybe she wants to get back in the Miss Universe contest.
Sure. You know,
he could help out.
The
there.
Mrs. Universe contest.
I'm sorry. Let's talk about 866-55-PRESS. Sarah Palin, Donald Trump, a match made in Hollywood heaven.
Yeah, right.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. If I see dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, you bet it is 27 minutes after the hour. It was quite a show. Well, you know, I think in a sense the two of them deserve each other because Donald Trump is Sarah Palin was the worst vice presidential candidate ever, and Donald Trump's the worst presidential candidate ever, maybe. Quickly, Ike down in North Charleston. Hello, Ike. Yeah.
Is everybody in the Republican Party on LSD or what? I mean, look, you know, I used to keep around the house some, some markers and like a dry erase board for my Republican friends so I could explain things to them. Well, after that, after what I just saw, I guess I'm going to switch off to hand puppets and crayons because I swear these people are insane.
There's no other way to put it. Yeah.
Watching Sarah Palin last night rivaled any drug experience I've ever had in my life.
And Peter's had a lot of it.
I've had quite a bit.
Thank you, Ike. Let's jump over to Rick is in Lewis County, West Virginia. Hi, Rick.
What a dog and pony show. You know, it's just, to me, it's just a reflection of the sad state of American politics. And you've got people that actually take these people serious. Give me a break. And the media, they just eat it up, you know. I'll tell you what, I think 2016 is going to be a make or break election because personally, there's not one person on the Republican side I would even consider voting for dog catcher.
I got to tell you, Rick, hey, good to hear from you. It is, it's a wild bunch. I would agree with Rick. Not one of them I think is qualified to be president.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of their lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper surveillance of the police. Their police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault. Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right, here we go at 34 minutes after the hour now. Something very special to mention to you. A new book that I've got coming out, which we have made available to you, all of our viewers on Free Speech and TawkrTV, and all of our listeners on Progressive Radio across the country. And let me start by saying, I think you know me well enough by now. You know, I am a big fan of President Obama's. I'm not anti-Obama in any way. I'm pro-Obama. I voted for him twice. I'm glad I did. He's done a lot of great things, which am more than ready to give him credit for, on the economy, on the auto industry, on gay rights, on climate change, on Cuba, on the Iran deal. But I also believe, and you've heard me talk about this, that there are a lot of areas where President Obama has fallen short, where he's failed to lead, where he's been, I think, too timid, or sometimes worse, where he's even continued the policies of George W. Bush, particularly when it comes to national security matters. So in the end, in many areas, many ways, I've been disappointed in the presidency of Barack Obama. I don't think he's been willing to seize the power, to use the power, to fight for the things that we believe in. I think in many ways there's been an opportunity missed. He certainly wasn't, in my mind, the bold and the progressive champion and fighter that we thought we were getting. So my book about that all, which gives him credit for the good and not so much credit for where we missed the boat, it comes out February 2nd, so just less than 2 weeks from now, and the title, Buyer's Remorse. Here it is, Buyer's Remorse, How Obama Let Progressives Down. And we have made it available to you as a special deal, which you can get like right away, get your order in right away. If you go to BillPressShow.com to get a signed copy of Buyer's Remorse. Of course, it's already up on Amazon.com, and it'll be again in your bookstores on February 2nd. But for this cheaper than you can get it in the store, $27. For $27, you get a signed copy, including shipping, including taxes, kind of the whole thing, $27. Just go to BillPressShow.com, place your order. Peter?
I have to point out, it's not just a signed copy. This is my favorite part, because they can leave a note and you will sign it however they want, which could get a little dangerous.
I don't ask any questions. Yeah, no. You want it you want it signed? Fine. You want it inscribed to you or to someone you love or don't love? You just tell us how you sign it. Ray Rogers is going to take care of all of these. Put your order in. So again, go to BillPressShow.com. You follow the click. PayPal's there just to pay it. And again, $27 includes everything, and you'll get your own signed copy or more.
It's a sweet deal.
Get several for your friends.
Sure,
give out to your friends. But I want to come back to make the point. I mean, if you look at certain areas, and let's just talk about a couple of them to show you what I mean. Like on the economy, for example, yes, we certainly are hell of a lot better off than we were 7 years ago. No doubt, I'd be the first one to admit that. But at the same time, you look how all this started, this economic recovery. It has taken so long. It has been so slow, and we're still not all the way back. And part of the problem is, if you go back, remember, to the stimulus. President Obama, it was a $787 billion stimulus, which was nowhere near what we needed. Christina Romer, at the time, who was the best of his economic advisors. In fact, you go back, the first mistake President Obama made was putting Larry Summers in charge of the economic recovery. But Christina Romer recommended that to really get back and to get people back to work, we needed like $1.8 trillion. President Obama and Larry Summers said, no, that'll never fly. So they knocked it down to like 1.1 or something like that. President Obama knocked it down to 787, and only a third of that went to job creation. Remember, some of it went to tax cuts, some of it went to investments in renewable energy. Bottom line is the stimulus didn't do enough, was very temporary, didn't put enough people back to work, and there was no second stimulus. There was no kind of follow-up. So as a result, again, economic recovery has really lagged. Wages are still stuck. If they haven't gone down for a lot of people, then the president went into this whole deficit reduction mode. trying to get a deal with Republicans. And as a result of that, we're still stuck in sequester spending, and programs across the board are down. So even on the economy, even though, again, he's done some good things, not nearly what this country needed at the time or needs today. Even if you look at health care, and we talked about this a little bit with after the debate on Monday morning with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Yes, people are better off today than they were. At least 19 million Americans now have health insurance who could not get it before. But that's not universal health care. There's still 30 million Americans, as Bernie Sanders points out, who have no health insurance for themselves or their families. And my big disappointment in that is President Obama said, and he convinced us all, that as part of the Affordable Care Act, we needed a public plan option. We needed something like, he didn't call it that, he should have called it that, Medicare for everybody. You don't have to buy insurance from a private insurance company. You can sign up for the public plan option and basically become part of Medicare for you and your family. It's the best way to go. President Obama wouldn't even consider it, took it off, first sold it, but before it even came up for a vote, that's my point, didn't even push for a vote, didn't try to get enough votes. He just said, oh, that'll never fly in Congress. And he dropped it like a hot rock, dropped the public plan option. So now we're stuck with the Affordable Care Act. Okay, yeah, it's got a lot of good parts to it. But you know what it is? It forces everybody in America to buy insurance from a private insurance company. No other product has that kind of protection. We don't have to buy a car. We don't have to buy a gun. We don't have to buy spinach, right? But you have to buy health insurance, and you can only get it from a private company. Again, that's not the most progressive way to go. And on the national security area, look, it's been President Obama who has continued George Bush's policy of having the NSA spy on us. He's defended them, and they're still doing it on every email and every phone call. It's outrageous, that kind of wholesale domestic spying. And this president, Democrat, progressive, supports it. Look at the number of, President Obama banned terror, which was a great thing to do, but instead he switched to the use of drones. 10 times as many drone attacks, 10 times as many civilians killed by drone attacks under President Obama as under George W. Bush. You can't just look the other way and say, well, that's the way Democrats do things. No, that's not the way we ought to do things. And finally, on the war front, President Obama promised, right, he's going to end the war in Afghanistan, end the war in Iraq, and start no more wars. Today, we are in a position where we still have troops in Iraq. That war is not over. We've extended the war in Afghanistan yet one more year, at least one more year, into 2017. And now we have a third war in Syria against ISIS, even though it has not been a declared war. Of course, the others aren't declared wars either. So we've gone from 2 wars to 3 wars is where we're ending up. In other words, as progressives, I think we've got to say we didn't get everything we bargained for. Again, the book is Buyer's Remorse, How Obama Let Progressives Down. And the main point is, I'll end with this, and because we're going to talk to David Jackson next, the main point I make is, we got to remember, progressives, that we need to do better, and we've got to demand more of our political leaders. And for the next president, it's going to be Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden. We've got to demand that they take the progressive torch and run with it from day one and not give back. In other words, govern like the Republicans do. When they get in office, they don't mess around. They just go full bore for the conservative agenda. We need somebody who's going to go full bore for the progressive agenda, and I'm sorry to say President Obama has not. Go to BillPressShow.com. Do it right now. Get your copy. Order your copy. Tell us how you want it signed. We'll get it out to you right away. And we'll be back with David Jackson, USA Today.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. while you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Help keep all the presidential candidates straight with your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go at 12 minutes before the hour. Yes, indeed. Most of the attention has been on Iowa because the caucuses are next Monday. No, not next Monday. Week from Monday.
Yeah.
February 1. But let's not forget New Hampshire. They bounced to New Hampshire right after Iowa, and several of the candidates are making their big stand in New Hampshire, not in Iowa. And that's where we catch up with our buddy David Jackson this morning in Plymouth, New Hampshire. How cold is it in Plymouth, David?
I think it's about 8 degrees, I think. The sun's getting ready to come up, so we should be up in the mid-teens here pretty shortly. So.
Yeah, come on back to Washington where it's 13, you know. It's just,
yeah, I know. With the snow coming. So we got a big snowstorm coming up here this weekend, too.
Do you really?
East Coast is going to be in. That's what they say. I think it's the same storm. It's going to be in Metz this weekend.
Oh, man. All right. So you're on the trail with Marco Rubio today?
Right. We're up here in Plymouth, which is about 60 miles north of Manchester. Marco Rubio is doing a town hall here at 7:30 at a senior center here in Plymouth. So it's one of those early morning deals. And he's then going to go and talk to the New Hampshire legislators. Several of the candidates are going to go talk to the New Hampshire legislature today, including Rubio, John Kasich, and Chris Christie.
Oh.
The latter two of whom are really making their last stand here in New Hampshire and are really putting a huge effort into the state.
Yeah.
So it should be an interesting day.
Well, so has Rubio kind of given up on Iowa, or have all three of them given up on Iowa? Is that why they're in New Hampshire?
I think Kasich and Christie have given up on Iowa. I think Rubio's still keeping his hand in. He's hoping to maybe finish third in Iowa. But he's also he's kind of splitting his time between Iowa and New Hampshire. He's really one of the few candidates who's doing that. So it'll be interesting to see if it winds up benefiting him, if he winds up doing second or third in both states, or if it winds up hurting him and lowering his standing in both places. But it's really got an interesting approach.
Well, and an interesting story in the New York Times yesterday, and I've seen some of the clips too, about some of the other candidates seem to be dumping on Rubio, questioning his commitment to being a senator, questioning even his masculinity, right? I mean, Chris Christie in particular. I mean, what's this all about, and how's Rubio handling it?
Well, I think they see him as the third man, if you will, the alternative to Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. So they're the ones that he's the one that they need to get past in order to get to those top two guys. The effeminate charge comes from the boots. Remember the boots picture last year?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Marco Rubio wearing those very fancy boots, and a lot of the other campaigns mocked him, and Christie's still mocking him over it, and Rubio was quite upset about it, from what I understand. He couldn't understand why so many people were paying attention to his boots, but there it is. And I think, Bill, a lot of it is all of the candidates who aren't Donald Trump are spending time attacking each other and basically giving the front runner a free pass. They're all trying to put themselves in a position to be the alternative to Trump. So I think Rubio's taking the brunt of that criticism, but he's also giving it back to folks like Christie and Ted Cruz. So it's basically the non-Trumps fighting each other, looking to be the alternative.
And now, missing from our conversation so far is Jeb Bush. Have you seen him around? Is he getting any attention? What's he doing?
He's also coming. He was at the Council of Foreign Relations yesterday. He's coming back to New Hampshire today to do some town halls. I'm going to see him tomorrow, and he's also doing some town halls. But yes, he's kind of a forgotten man. But he's the exception to what I just talked about. He is the one candidate who really is attacking Trump, but it doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot of good for him. His poll numbers continue to decline. He's basically in the single digits, and as you say, a lot of people have forgotten about him.
Is this the end of the road for New Hampshire? Will New Hampshire be the end of the road for some of these candidates? Like I'm thinking of John Kasich.
I think very much so. I think Kasich, Christie, and Bush, I think really have to finish second or at least third here in order to justify their continued existence. It really is a death struggle here. In Iowa, you got guys like Huckabee and Santorum. They have to do well, or they're going to drop out. Here, it's what they call the three governors: Christie, Kasich, and Bush. They're kind of in a death match here as well. I think Rubio and Cruz will advance to South Carolina regardless of what happens. But New Hampshire could be the end of the road for a lot of these guys.
And where's Rand Paul in the mix?
Behind Bush, I would think. I got to tell you, I'm frankly a little surprised he's still in the race. When he got bumped down to the preliminary debate, you remember last month when he was threatened to be knocked down to the preliminary debate, there were emanations from his camp that he may just pull out of the race if that happened. Yeah. Well, it happened, and he didn't pull out of the race. But it's he's just a for better or for worse, fairly or unfairly, he's just kind of a non-factor in all of these races right now.
He's going to be running for re-election, don't you think? I mean, that's the.
I think that's what inspired a lot of the talk about him pulling out, is that he would get a lot of help with his re-election in Kentucky, but so far it hasn't happened.
Right. And Christie, in the latest poll says that Christie is like in third place, isn't he, in New Hampshire, or is it?
I don't think it's just a giant. Well, yeah, if you add them all up now, because of a poll that came out last night, Kasich is the number 2 guy right now in New Hampshire. They're all trailing Trump. Trump's got a big lead, but I think the battle for second place is very fierce here. I think Kasich moving, Christie moving, Rubio is doing well. Cruz is doing a lot better in New Hampshire. Since his surge in Iowa, that has helped him here in New Hampshire. And I still wouldn't count Bush out because he's got a big organization here. So I think it's just a giant, it's just quite a mosh pit for second place here in New Hampshire.
And Bernie's still leading among the Democrats?
CNN poll came out yesterday to give Bernie a 27-point lead over Hillary Clinton.
Whoa!
Now, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
60-33. I was just stunned when I heard that number. There's something wrong with that. But I think most people will say he's ahead here. Yeah. And if he wins Iowa, he's almost surely going to win here. So it's going to be kind of a dicey situation for the Clinton camp right now.
All right. Hey, good to have you on the ground for us, David. All the way up there in New Hampshire.
For next month, I'll be out here. So.
All right. We'll catch up with you wherever you are. Thank you so much. Hey, great, David. Have a good day. Say hello to Marco for us. David Jackson, USAtoday.com.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. Will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says F it and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, you've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things, and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% try the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Kyle Kondik, University of Virginia, coming up next.
So Donald Trump sat down for an interview with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and he was asked a question. I'm curious, have you cried before, and what's something that makes you cry? And Donald Trump says, well, I'm not a big crier. I like to get stuff done. I'm not somebody that goes around crying a lot. The last time I cried was when I was a baby. Says Donald Trump. Not a crier. Not a crier.
Yeah.
Likes to get stuff done.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aqua Force. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aqua Force going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
And online, this is the Bill Press Show.
1 year from today.
That close, huh?
That close. 1 year from today, we'll be swearing in the next president of the United States. And who the hell knows who it's going to be? Hello, everybody. What do you say? It is a Wednesday, January 20. This is the Bill Press Show. Good to have you with us on your local progressive talk radio station. Great to see you out there in Radio Land, and good to see you on television as well. Free Speech TV and radio coast to coast. We're there right alongside of you in your car, your office, your home, wherever you happen to be, to tell you what's going on today, particularly in the political world here, with a great, crazy 2016 race that got crazier than ever last evening. And also, we're here to just hear from you about what you think about it all. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Join the conversation. Join our town hall. These candidates are having town halls back-to-back. Well, we have a 3-hour town hall every day, and you are the audience. So we want to hear what you think about the issues of the day, the candidates that we're talking about at 866-55-PRESS, or your comments again on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Nobody surveys the political scene better than Kyle Kondik, working with Larry Sabato down at the University of Virginia Center for Politics. Hey, Kyle, how you doing?
Hey, doing well.
All right. Good to see you. First time in 2016, I think, huh? So
absolutely.
I have a feeling we'll be talking often between...
Plenty to talk about.
Should be a wild year.
Yeah,
Isn't
right.
it wild to think? I mean, if you had to say today, I know for certain the person who's going to be sworn in a year from today is... Who could say?
Yeah, who could say? I mean, I think you'd have to say that Hillary Clinton probably has the best percentage chance of any of them, but that doesn't make her a favorite or anything. It's just you would probably take her over the others, just particularly because there's so much uncertainty on the Republican side. But even she's having her own difficulties particularly in Iowa and New Hampshire. And of course, the Republican side is just a mess.
More likely her than anybody else, but no lock for sure.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that there are, it's hard for a party to win 3 straight terms in the White House. To the extent that anything bad happens this year, I think that President Obama sort of takes the blame for it, and by extension, Hillary Clinton that splashes on her too. And so it may be that conditions are such in the fall that the Republicans are actually. Maybe they look like they're the favorites to win the White House, but if they have a candidate that is really unpopular and problematic, then they can't capitalize on that. So that's what's challenging about it.
All right, we're just getting started here with Team Press here too as well. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
Good morning.
Hey guys, Ray Rogers there. Ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS and Cyprian Bolden keeping us looking good on that TV screen. Our videographer. As if Donald Trump doesn't have enough slings and arrows coming at him from his fellow Republican candidates here, even the Brits are going after him. This week they had the great big committee hearing over in the UK to talk about perhaps banning Donald Trump from stepping foot on British soil because of his comments about Muslims. Jimmy Fallon last night talked about this. Is sort of ironic when you think of it.
Did you hear about this? British lawmakers they met yesterday to start debating whether or not to ban Donald Trump from entering the UK. It's crazy, because if there's anyone who should get along with Donald Trump, it's British lawmakers.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
You have the charisma of a damp rag.
You don't need it to be Christmas to know when you're sitting next to a turkey. You're a miserable hit squeak of a man.
Yeah.
That's great.
You have the charisma of a damp rag. They do insult each other.
Totally.
Right there in the chambers, right? This is not stuff on television. This is their debates.
A lot of us have said for a long, long time, wouldn't it be kind of refreshing to see some of that come to American politics? And in a lot of ways,
here it is.
We have,
except not in the Congress. They don't.
Not
do
in the
that
Congress. No, not in the Congress.
On the floor of the Congress, it's always my friend, the senator from.
There's this whole theory
South
about government structures. Like, Britain has both the monarchy and then they have the prime minister, and so you have 2 different people for those. You've got a ceremonial job and you've got the leader of government, and so the leader of government. You can supposedly you can be nastier to that person because you also have a symbolic leader of the country. The president is both of those roles in one, and yet the president gets just as criticized as the prime minister of Britain. So
I've always wanted to go to actually sit in at a debate of the House of Commons or something and just hear them back and forth. They tear each other up. It's really funny.
Well, it just goes to show that any sort of nastiness that we have over here, it's tempting to say that it's unprecedented or it's the worst, but it's really not.
We do not have a monopoly on nastiness. Kyle Kondik here for the first half hour. And then we'll be joined by Ken Halls, the Secretary-Treasurer of the Teamsters Union, a little bit later in the program. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Breaking news this morning. CNN has announced that there will be a town hall in Iowa on Monday night featuring Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, and Martin O'Malley. They will be hosting it. It will be airing live on CNN.
So a week before the caucuses.
Before the caucuses. That's right. So they're going to have everybody up there. Now, this is not a debate.
No.
Because it's prime time on a night where people might watch it. That's how you can tell the difference between a town hall and a debate. So be ready for it. I know we will be watching, but Monday night in Iowa is a Democratic town hall. So be there. So, North Korea, we can give them credit for a lot of things, right? We can now give them credit, apparently, for a new alcoholic beverage that leaves you without a hangover. Okay? Now, I'm just going to tell you what this is called. It's called Koryo Liquor. It's a secret blend made with 6-year-old ginseng and scorched rice, and they say that it causes absolutely no hangover when you drink it. They say that this ginseng is known to be very high in medicinal effects, and the scorched rice is highly appreciated by experts and lovers, and it is suave and causes no hangover, according to
this a North Korean drink?
North Korean beverage. So if you are brave enough to drink one of those, maybe you don't get a hangover.
Right. No, thank you.
Guest. And
I'd rather have a hangover.
We talk about this every now and then because Oreo is constantly bringing out a new flavor of Oreo. I know you hate this.
I know. I hate it. I just love Oreos.
I love Oreos too, but this one actually is kind of interesting. I'm going to say it. It's the cinnamon bun flavored Oreos. No.
Sounds horrible.
Shut it down right away.
Yeah, right.
A cinnamon flavored cookie sandwich that has a cinnamon bun and frosting flavored cream in the middle. They say that they're designed to taste, quote, fresh from the oven, end quote, despite the fact that they've probably traveled thousands of miles before making it to the grocery store shelf. We will also see the return of red velvet Oreos, which were very popular around Valentine's Day last year. So
what would happen if you dunked the Oreo in the North Korean drink? That sounds.
I'm on board, man.
That sounds a bit much.
I'd try that. Hey, you might actually like the Oreos
then you might really get a hangover. I don't know.
That's right.
All right, so it was a rare night from an entertainment value point of view last night, Kyle, when Donald Trump trotted out his latest endorsement after just about getting the endorsement of Jerry Falwell Jr. earlier in the week. Not officially. Last night it was official. And Sarah Palin takes a microphone and she says, this is such great news. Hallelujah.
He is from the private sector, not a politician. Can I get a hallelujah?
Can I get a hallelujah? I mean, why?
The best suggestion I heard yesterday, somebody on Twitter said that Palin's got to have a new book coming out or something.
Oh man,
that this is just getting her back in the news. I mean,
that's really what it is.
She really has been invisible after being obviously being John McCain's running mate, and then I think was in the lead up to the 2012 election was really thought of as potentially running herself.
But since then, it's been
she's kind of this curiosity, but it does. There is kind of a logical alliance between Trump and Palin because I would say that both of them are kind of non-ideological candidates. Neither of them are really what you'd consider to be classic Republican economic conservatives. And there's this kind of this politics of identity, kind of a blue collar Republican identity that is more about almost cultural grievance and wanting to turn back the clock than anything else.
Now, David Brooks yesterday in the New York Times had an interesting op-ed. I don't know whether you saw it, but I gave a speech last Thursday on Wall Street, actually, in front of a group of institutional investors, where I made the same point that David Brooks made in the New York Times yesterday, which is and a lot of the people in the establishment Republican Party are saying this, that either Ted Cruz or Donald Trump, as the nominee of the Republican Party, destroys the Republican Party. And therefore, what I said, and Brooks, I didn't talk to him, he said the same thing, is the only way to stop them is the other candidates have got to get together and get behind one candidate. They can't be 5 or 6 or 7 trying to take on Trump or Cruz. And do you buy that?
I buy it in regards to Trump. I don't buy it in regards to Cruz, and here's why. I know Cruz is a lot of Republicans don't like him, particularly people on Capitol Hill, but he is a Republican in good standing. He does basically have a lot of similar beliefs to the other candidates. It's just he's a lot more aggressive about it. To me, Ted Cruz, even if he loses, would be kind of like a Barry Goldwater type in which the Republican Party would just go on after him and maybe would learn a lesson that maybe he was too conservative. Trump, to me, is different because he's not really a Republican.
True. God knows what he is. But even with Ted Cruz, I mean, Brooks points out that the Tea Party represents 17% of the American electorate. So how can this guy, unite the country, let alone unite the party.
I think that both Cruz and Trump would have trouble. It's just that I think the Cruz candidacy, provided he didn't, win the general election, would just be kind of a blip. It would just be, well, the Republicans made a mistake and nominated a candidate who couldn't win. With Trump, it would be more like they were just handing over the party to a guy who is a celebrity and who, again, arguably really isn't even a Republican. To me, that's the bigger long-term problem. I mean, some people have argued that the Cruz nomination might actually be good for the Republicans in that if he actually lost, finally the establishment could tell the Tea Party types, well, we did it your way and it didn't work, because the Tea Party people have been saying, well, you need to nominate someone more conservative than McCain or Romney, which I don't really agree with. But
right. But they've been making that. People have been making that argument to the extreme right wing for a long time.
Well, for decades.
And they never buy it. They just say, we weren't conservative enough. We weren't conservative enough. So is it possible that Donald Trump could be the nominee?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a chance he could win Iowa and New Hampshire, which, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying it myself, but, part of the thing that changed from when he got in the race to now is that when he got in the race, a lot of people didn't think he could win, myself included, because
people didn't think he would run.
Yeah, his favorability, even amongst Republicans, was very poor, and that totally turned around. Now his favorability is actually pretty decent. I think there's still kind of a ceiling on his support, but yeah, I mean, if he were to win Iowa and New Hampshire, he would be doing something that Bob Dole didn't do when he won the nomination. George W. Bush didn't win both Iowa and New Hampshire. In fact, there has not been a non-incumbent Republican to win both states in any recent contest, and so it would be a tremendous show of strength from him. But also, it would just be 2 out of 50 states.
If it's neither Trump nor Cruz, who is it?
Well, it should be someone who comes out of New Hampshire, and that could be Marco Rubio, or it still could be a Jeb Bush or a Chris Christie or a John Kasich, because what's going to happen is that after Iowa and New Hampshire, we're going to see a lot of these candidates get out, I think, in which case there's going to be an opportunity for parts of the party to consolidate. And I still think there's room for a big part of the party to consolidate behind a non-Cruz and a non-Trump. Rubio seems like on paper the most logical person for that, but maybe it's one of the others. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason why they're all still in.
I can't figure it out. It seems to me, and I'm trying to keep my personal feelings out of this, that there's something about Marco Rubio that doesn't quite click.
A lot of the candidates have attacked him in almost kind of a condescending way, basically saying that he's too young, he's childish, and I think that's part of the.
He's effeminate.
Yeah, it's
boots. So he went out and bought a gun. Damn it! On Christmas Eve to prove he's a man.
Yeah, it's a. There was this great comment by someone in a Peter Hart focus group. This was from a few months ago, in which some person described Rubio as Robin to Batman, as that he was he's just not he's not the lead guy. And that kind of context, I think, kind of is part of these other attacks on him as being just not ready for prime time. And you also have a situation where Republicans hate Obama. Rubio is sometimes thought of as the Republican Obama, and part of the criticism of Obama is that he didn't have enough experience. He was too young. But here's the other thing: is like then you're going to support Cruz or Trump. Cruz is the same age as Rubio, and has less experience as an actual elected official. Trump's never been elected to anything. I think part of it is that Cruz and Trump seem stronger, basically because they yell a lot. I mean,
wow. That gets you.
I mean, that is kind of half the battle. Let's be honest.
All right. So we have another party to talk about. There's also a contest in the Democratic Party. Kyle Kondik here, the University of Virginia Center for Politics, centerforpolitics.org. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, we're going to talk right to work, West Virginia, with Ken Hall, Secretary-Treasurer of the Teamsters. Coming up next, Kyle Kondik here from the Center for Politics, University of Virginia. What's happening on the Democratic side? The latest poll yesterday in New Hampshire showed Bernie Sanders with a 27-point lead over Hillary Clinton.
That seems like a bit of an outlier, but we have had 7 polls in New Hampshire since January 1st. And Sanders has led 6 of them. And so I think it's fair to say that Sanders is probably leading in New Hampshire at this point.
Iowa?
I think Iowa is pretty close, but I think that both Iowa and New Hampshire are states that Sanders could win. However, once the calendar gets to the more diverse states, Hillary Clinton still does very well among black voters, Hispanic voters. one wonders if Sanders could capitalize on that momentum. But, the Clinton folks are very clearly worried about it.
Worried about what might happen because there usually is a bounce, right? I mean, if you win 2 states,
one would think so, but the racial aspect of it is such that it may Sanders may not be able to do anything to appeal to certain group segments of the Democratic Party. But imagine what the media firestorm would be if Clinton lost the first 2 states after seeming inevitable.
And
it's hard to predict what that might do to the race.
Yeah, you know what the story's going to be? 2008 deja vu.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, even she won New Hampshire in 2008.
Oh, that's right.
So it would be even worse after the first 2 states.
Hey, Kyle, great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, let's make it 33 minutes after the hour now. It's the Bill Press Show. We're here in our nation's capital. We are there with you across this great land of ours, coast to coast. We're there with you on the radio, of course, and on television, on your local progressive talk radio station. Or, you can always find us on your iPhone or any electronic device, one of those two great radio apps, iHeartRadio or TuneIn. They're both free. Download them. Follow us on the radio wherever you go. And we're looking at you on television, too, on Free Speech TV. Here from our nation's capital, where we're brought to you today by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. We all live better because of the work of the good men and women of the Teamsters Union in many different segments of this economy. Find out more about their great work by going to their website at teamster.org, or you can just turn to the Secretary-Treasurer of the Teamsters, Mr. Ken Hall, who joins us in studio this morning. Ken, it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Oh, it's great to see you. Happy New Year.
And we thank you and all of your members for your longtime support of the Bill Press Show. Keeps us charged and going out there every day.
Oh, right? That's a great thing.
So you are a West Virginian, and it looks like for West Virginia is, at least the Republicans down there, are trying to line up to become the latest right-to-work state. Where does that stand right now?
Well, the session started last week, and they have introduced the legislation. It is, by the way, Senate Bill 1. So that lets you know what their priorities are.
Right.
So it's moving through the system. It went through the Judiciary Committee last week, was voted out on Friday, and now it's to the full Senate. And they expect to pass that bill tomorrow in the Senate. Is
this governor's priority too?
Absolutely not. The governor is opposed to right to work. In fact, the interesting thing is that the proponents contend that this is about economic development in West Virginia. We all know better. It's nothing more than an attack, not only on unions, but it's an attack on just good, hardworking, tax-paying people in West Virginia.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand what it sounds so good, right? Right to work. Who could be against the right to work? What does it actually, and we've seen it now in state after state after state. What does it actually mean?
What it actually means is that employees who work in a union at a company that is represented by the union can choose to not pay dues while at the same time accepting the exact same wages, health care, pension, working condition that all the other members receive. And it's not hard to understand what's going on. One, it's about corporate greed because there's a lot of companies. ALEC is involved in West Virginia. The Heritage Foundation is involved in West Virginia. It's about driving down wages and benefits so that the corporate folks make even more money. And it's an attack by the right-wing Republicans to silence unions.
It really is an anti-union move across the board. But they always say, and we've heard this from other states too, if we just get right to work, right, and basically bust the unions, there'll be more jobs and the state's economy will thrive. What's the reality been?
The reality, if you look around the country, and frankly, if you look at today's numbers and forget about all the propaganda that is being spread, if you just look at the facts and you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, not Teamster math, not Teamster propaganda, the Bureau of Labor Statistics show that 5 of the 8 states that have an unemployment rate in excess of 6% are in a right-to-work state. It also shows that 7 of the 10 states with the lowest per capita income is right-to-work states, as well as, unfortunately, 7 of the 10 states with the highest rates of poverty are right-to-work states.
Yeah. So why would any state want to go there, right? I mean, like West Virginia. What are they saying this is going to do for West Virginia?
They say this is going to bring thousands of jobs, although in the hearings last week, they produced not one single witness in 2 days of hearings that said, yes, we would move to West Virginia if it was a right-to-work state. To the contrary, the Secretary of Commerce, Keith Burdett, who is responsible for economic development, he deals with companies who are moving, like Procter & Gamble, who just announced that they're building a plant, the first in 20 years. It's going to be in West Virginia. He testified to the Judiciary Committee that there has been not one single case where an employer or where a company has said, we won't move to West Virginia because of right to work. In fact, he said, it's something that doesn't even come up. I mean, if we look at what's really happened in Oklahoma, when they passed the law in, I think, 2010, they've lost 1/3 of their manufacturing jobs. In Wisconsin, who was the latest to pass right to work in 2014 as part of Scott Walker's right-wing agenda, they just lost, if things are so great, someone should ask the Oscar Mayer employees, who just 1,000 of them just lost their jobs in November, bringing 10,000 employees who have been involved in mass layoffs in Wisconsin 1 year after right to work was passed, and twice the number of people that lost their jobs the previous year.
So you've got example after example in states where they've gone this path of right to work, and it's been an economic disaster. You would think that would hold some sway over the people who are considering it today, but it doesn't work that way.
No, if this issue was based on facts, it would be a no-brainer. This case, it would be over. This issue would have been over long ago. It's not about facts. In fact, it's so disappointing to me. I was on a show in West Virginia 3 or 4 weeks ago when the president of the Chamber of Commerce testified just the opposite of what I said. He testified that 5 of the states with the highest the 5 states with the highest unemployment were non-right to work. It's just not true. And now the chamber is running TV ads because they know that the more information that the citizens have, the more they're opposed to this. So they're running ads now saying it's going to create jobs, it's going to raise wages. There's nobody, not even the proponents of right to work, would credibly tell you that it raises wages. They all know that it lowers wages.
How many states now, right to work states?
There are 25. It was the nation split, with Wisconsin being the last one to go right to work in 2014.
And they're all red states?
Primarily, and that's the point. If right to work was so good, it would be a nonpartisan issue. You would see a bipartisan legislature that came and talked about passing it. But the fact is, the 3 states that have went right to work in the last 10 years has all been Republican-led states, where it is, as I said earlier, it's nothing more than driving down wages for employees and attacking unions for political reasons.
And it seems to me to be part of a better picture. I mean, we've seen this with Scott Walker in Wisconsin, John Kasich in Ohio, Chris Christie in New Jersey, Rick Snyder in Michigan. They get these Republican governors, they get elected, and the first thing they do is go to war against the unions. Right?
Absolutely. The best example of that is in Indiana, where the governor...
I forgot about him.
The governor came to the unions and said, I want you to know right now, when I'm elected, I am not going to support right to work. When he got elected, one of the first things he did is push right to work.
Is that Mike Pence? I'm just trying to...
I'm trying to remember his name.
Yeah,
right now.
that's Mike Pence.
Yes,
it
Mike
is, right?
Pence.
Yeah,
yes.
Mike Pence, right. And the broader, I mean, hearing you talk about right to work, it's not the same, but I'm reminded that last week the Supreme Court heard arguments on this case affecting public employee unions, where it's almost the same thing in this sense, that this case involving California teachers, where if the Supreme Court rules in favor of the plaintiffs, right, that members of teachers union or public employees union, police officers, firemen or whatever, don't have to join the union, don't have to pay their dues, but they get all the benefits. It's sort of like on the right to work. In other words, it's sort of encouraging people to be freeloaders, right? Isn't it?
It absolutely is, and that's what I've said the interesting thing is, and the proof that this is really just a right-wing agenda is that when this was introduced in West Virginia last year, I talked with some of the conservative senators to say, where are you going with this? You're a conservative. How is it you believe that somebody should get something for nothing? And their answer was, oh, we don't. That's not the kind of law we're going to pass. They didn't even know what they were introducing because it was handed to them by ALEC and said, go forth and pass this legislation.
Yeah. Let's remind everybody We know what ALEC is, in case you might have missed it. ALEC is the American Legislative Exchange Council, funded 100% by the Koch brothers. And the way they work is they write very extreme right-wing legislation and send it out to the states. They did the voting rights stuff. They did the stand your ground laws on the guns, and they've done the right to work stuff, and they send it out to the bozos in the state legislatures who just take it and make a Xerox copy and throw it in. It's all the same legislation across the board, isn't it?
It is absolutely. I looked at the legislation in West Virginia, and it is almost verbatim the model language of ALEC. But let's not forget, in exchange for that, they're pumping a lot of money. They're pumping a lot of money to the legislators. I mean, they have these private meetings where they meet with the legislators with their agenda and pump a lot of money into that.
All right.
You know, the one thing that is incredibly important that I didn't bring up, and that is the issue of safety. In right-to-work states, there are substantially more fatalities per capita than there is in non-right-to-work states, and there's a simple reason for that. Workers are afraid to stand up and complain about working conditions. We've seen a prime example of that in the state of West Virginia, where the UBB disaster, or the mine disaster that this CEO Blankenship has just been convicted of bypassing safety measures and in place because he wanted more coal production.
Oh yeah,
and that was a non-union mine. And when the U.S. attorney brought suit against the CEO, miner after miner testified that they knew how bad the working conditions were, but they were afraid to complain about it because they would be fired. And so that's something that's incredibly important in this right-to-work legislation.
Extremely important, a very important element of this. We've seen right-to-work, and it's been such a disaster in Oklahoma, in Wisconsin, just about everywhere it's tried, and now West Virginia, for God knows what reason. Well, we know what reason, anti-union. The West Virginia legislature is considering it. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number for you folks, good folks in West Virginia or anywhere in the country with an interest in this. Ken Hall here, Secretary-Treasurer of the Teamsters Union. We'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 11 minutes before the top of the hour. Just a little reminder, I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the program. My new book comes out on the 2nd of February. Not in the bookstores yet. Won't be there till the 2nd of February, but you can order it. We've made it a very special offer for our listeners and viewers here. If you go to BillPressShow.com. Name of the book, Buyer's Remorse. And I say this is a supporter of President Obama, but how Obama let progressives down on many issues. We can get a signed copy for less than it is in the bookstores. $27. That counts shipping to you. We'll sign it any way you want. Go to BillPressShow.com. You tell us how you want it signed or inscribed, and then we will get it out to you. The book, taxes, shipping, and everything, flat $27. Our guest right now here in studio with us, we've been talking about right to work in West Virginia. Ken Hall is the Secretary-Treasurer of the great Teamsters Union under President Jim Hoffa. Before we move on to a couple of other issues, Ken, I do have to ask you a question about right to work in West Virginia. You mentioned the House has passed it. The Senate's going to vote maybe as early as tomorrow. Then it goes to the governor. The governor, who's a Democrat, has said he's against it. Will he veto the legislation?
Yes, I believe he's going to veto it. He's indicated that he will, yes.
So you're safe, right?
Well, we're really not, because under West Virginia state law, it only takes a simple majority to override the governor's veto with some exceptions. But in this case, it would take only 18 votes, which is at this time in question in the Senate, whether the Republicans have the 18 votes.
One thing I want to ask you about, so a couple of other quick issues. You know, with all the good things that President Obama has done, there are some things where I just think he didn't fight hard enough for things that we believe in. And two of them come to mind right away. One of them was the TPP, right? This whole trade deal, the Trade Promotion Authority, which he got with all Republican votes just about last year. And this year now he wants the whole plan approved. Again, Rosa DeLauro and Democrats are fighting it. Republicans are for it. I mean, for American workers, TPP, bad deal, right?
I think it's a bad deal for American workers. It's a bad deal for America. I mean, how many more jobs do we need to move out of this country? Good manufacturing jobs, which is the basis for the middle class for so many years. And we're seeing these jobs. We've watched these. I mean, we call TPP NAFTA on steroids. That's what we call it to Teamsters, because it's just shipping more and more good jobs to other countries where, one, they're not paying people. The work conditions are horrendous. It is just an outrageous deal. You should always know. You know, I'm not here to bash the president, but unlike right-wing Republicans, we recognize that regardless of who we support, they can be wrong, and in this case, he's wrong. And you know, we have fought this every step of the way. You have to know when something's negotiated in secret that it's not going to be good for this country.
Right. And you're right. And, you know, you look at Keith Ellison, you look at Rosa DeLauro, you look at Keith Ellison, you look at, Democrats across the board, in the Congress, and that's what they have said. You know, we support this president, but on this issue, he's wrong. The other one I remember is EFCA, the Employee Free Choice Act, right? And that was the number one priority for labor unions, I remember, in 2008. And he said he supported it. When I'm president, we're going to get that Employee Free Choice Act. Whatever happened to that?
That's a good question. We're all wondering that ourselves. But,
yeah.
It was a commitment. It was something that, frankly, the president didn't get behind at all. It was something that we felt we had a commitment for that because, all we're looking for is we're not looking for them to tilt the table towards us. We're looking for a level playing field. Yeah. And the way the system works now with the organizing, they deny so many hardworking employees the right to make their own choice because of all the shenanigans that are pulled by companies. They fire people in organizing campaigns. And so this was a way to level the field. Of course, those the very wealthiest of the country don't want the field leveled. They like it just the way it is.
God, you got it right. Yep, that never happened. Ken, it's so good of you to come in today. Thank you. Good luck with that big fight, battle in West Virginia. And we know there's a question about a Senate seat, and hopefully that'll work out right. And there won't be enough votes to override the governor's veto. So
we're going to keep fighting. And the one thing that I would tell you is they've awakened our members. And when it's time to go to the polls, we're going to see a change in West Virginia.
They're going to remember. Yeah, good
Thank
for you.
Bill.
Thanks so much. Again, it's Teamsters, teamster.org. We'll be right back.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, we got hour number 3 coming up here very, very shortly on the Bill Press Show. And you know the trick on Free Speech TV, we got a little delay until 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 Pacific. And if you don't want to wait around till then, just jump right over right now to TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, where you'll find us with, in the third hour, Ben Schreckinger from Politico, who says Donald Trump could actually beat Hillary Clinton. He'll be here in studio with us. And Emily Kahn from Mashable. 2 great political reporters coming up on third hour number 3 right here. Stay with us.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
At the top of the next hour, Ben Schreckinger from Politico will be here in studio with us. Then later we'll be joined by Emily Kahn from Mashable. President Obama on the road today to Detroit, where he will celebrate the amazing recovery of the American auto industry. He's going to go to the auto show in Detroit, which is always great fun. And then he'll be making some remarks afterwards about how the auto industry, thanks to his leadership, has come back. Then back to the White House. He'll be back to the White House just about 7 o'clock tonight. No briefing today. Eric Schultz, Deputy Press Secretary, will meet with reporters on Air Force One. We'll be back with Ben Schreckinger.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Society, civilizations, in some sense, are like our bodies. If there's something systemically wrong, it's manifesting all over the place, in all our organs, and that seems to be what's going on in our world at the moment.
The system is failing all around us.
Our infrastructure is falling apart. Our jails are full and can't hold more people. Our young people are burdened with $1 trillion in student debt.
We're in a heap of trouble.
When the temperature of the Earth is starting to rise, that's a very bad sign. Our Earth is running fever, and it's running it because it's sick in many ways.
In a country like the United States, the fact that anywhere from 45 to 50 million people are hungry, this is a problem.
We can't go on like this. We can't keep moving toward climate catastrophe, nuclear war, persistence of inequality, poverty, famine.
There is a systems problem. These are not one-off issues. They are interconnected, and we have to look at the system as a whole.
It's time to talk about alternatives. It's time to talk about what's next.
We need to be aspirational and be clear about the vision of the world that we want.
What is the system that humanizes us? What is the system that opens up our imagination of possibilities of cooperation?
Nothing is more important right now than to discuss how can we bring about this change.
As systems fail, individual and community creativity explodes, and that's what we have seen. People in this country are solving the problems themselves. They're coming up with new models and strategies, and within those models and strategies are the kernels of a systemic way to move forward.
Land trusts, cooperatively owned businesses,
sustainable energy,
state-owned banks,
urban gardening, urban farming.
These small successes taken together are a proof of concept that this can happen on a larger scale.
We're compelled to search for alternatives, not just analytically, but in how we live and what we do, how we organize our daily lives. And that has tremendous potential.
Our actions and our imagination have to match the magnitude of this problem.
We have to get out of our comfort zone. We must think with courage.
All bets are off in terms of our previous thinking. Our ways of thinking about the economy and our ways of thinking about politics have proven an abject and utter failure. The good news is we have no choice but to adopt revolutionary thinking. I like that.
That's the exciting part about this moment. When there are no rules, then people have freedom to invent and to create new things.
I have no doubt that we can create a better America.
If the people who cared about these things really joined together to do something about them, anything is possible.
The biggest worry for me is that we don't try, is that we don't push for what we know is right, for what we know is possible.
It's time for everybody who cares about this country and the future of the planet to do something about it, to get involved.
We can actually do better. We can build a better system. It's not impossible. It's a very American thing to do, to build a new system.
It's a challenge. We can do it collectively, neighborhood by neighborhood, step by step.
I think that the world that we're on the verge of is a bright and beautiful and interesting one. complex, local, interconnected. I hope we get there.
It's time to talk about what's next. Please come and sign our statement at thenextsystem.org.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown,
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls? How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American. As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 1 year from today, January 20, we will be lined up in front of the Capitol for the inauguration of the next president of the United States. And if you stay tuned this hour, you will find out who that's going to be, without any doubt. Oh, yeah? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows.
Good luck.
I don't know, but nobody knows for sure. Hello, everybody. Great to see you. It is hour number 3 of this Wednesday edition of the Bill Press Show. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us on the radio, on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide, coast to coast. And thank you for joining us on television as well on Free Speech TV. Lots going on. Too bad if you missed the most magical moment of the political season so far. Last night, Sarah Palin endorsing Donald Trump for president. But if you did happen to visit, we'll give you some good clips of it today. We'll make sure you get the highlights of that session last night. And here to talk with everything that's going on in the 2016 round for Politico, covering Republicans and Democrats, Ben Streckinger, all over the Donald Trump, Sarah Palin story. Hey, Ben, good to see you.
Good to be back.
It's nice that you're in Washington for like 1 day in between, right? In between little forays out into the campaign world?
The political wilderness.
Gives me a chance to do laundry, sleep in my own bed, and then off again
Nice
into
once
the
in a while.
fire.
You're back again out on the road again on Friday.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Good
turnaround.
Thanks for stopping in while you're in town and joining our friends Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Here we are.
Hey.
Here we are.
Right. Our team here at Ray Rogers also ready to take your calls. Remember at 866-55-PRESS. And our videographer, Cyprian Bolding, on the job as well. Do we have Chris Christie there? Where he's talking about, with all the issues that these candidates have to talk about, and they're so willing to attack the president or the first lady on like anything, you would think Chris Christie could find some other issue to go after. But this is what was foremost on his mind yesterday, Ben.
I don't care what you're eating for lunch every day. I really don't. I want you to eat whatever your mother wants you to eat and your father wants you to eat. Your mother and father should make that decision for you. And then they'll send you to school sometimes with a healthy lunch. And then you'll throw it out. And you'll go to school and you'll buy something that you really want to eat, right? I understand the way it works.
Yeah, he understands the way it works, I guess. Just look at him. Isn't that weird to be going? It's suggesting that kids ought to eat unhealthy stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't think this is a winning issue for Chris Christie
No.
particularly. He's had, I think, gastric bypass surgery. He's struggled with his weight.
Yeah.
It is an epidemic. I understand why the issue resonates with voters. They don't want the government telling their kids what to eat. That's something that hits home. But Chris Christie is probably not the right vessel for that message.
I would think not, right. And I think also sort of that kids should eat healthy maybe and not smoke and all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty good message across the board.
And also, like,
something that even, I know the anti-government thing, but still Republicans, I think, would agree. Yeah, kids ought to eat healthy.
And his notion that, like, kids should be able to throw away a perfectly good, healthy lunch that their parents packed so that they can eat crap at school is a dumb thing to say, right? Like, that's just dumb. If you're going to try and make our kids, who have been getting less obese over the years, by the way, like, which is it used to be a real problem with the kids being too obese. We've seen them slimming up. To go back to say they should be able to eat whatever garbage they want at school, no, I don't think that wins.
I don't think so. As Ben says, particularly not for Chris Christie to carry that message. So Ben's here with us for the first half hour. Emily Kahn from Mashable joins us at the half. Ben, we'll get right into the latest on the 2016 trail. But first, up to
This
Peter.
is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Okay.
Yes.
So when you log into your email or you log into your computer or you log into whatever account you have, your password is very important, right? So there's a new list here from Splash Data that has the worst passwords you could possibly choose to protect your data.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the worst password you can have on your computer. Number 2, I love this one. Number 2, the worst password?
Password.
Password is number 2.
Really?
Some people just enter in password as their password. There's a variation on the theme here. Just
my password.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is third on the list. QWERTY, just across the top of your keyboard, is fourth on the list. And number 5 is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other notables, number 7 on the list is football. Number 10 is baseball. Okay. Number 11 is welcome. Number 19 is let me in. And number 25, for whatever reason, Star Wars. It's a bad password. That's the top 25 worst passwords you can have.
Some hacker could easily guess.
Sure.
This.
Which one did Hillary Clinton use for her email server? That's my question.
Well, it depends on which emails. Are you talking about the top secret email?
Right.
Or the ones that are above top secret?
Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's an interesting web feature going on with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette where they are talking to former football players about life after football, right, to see sort of how they're adapting. And there's a very interesting little nugget that came out yesterday because they sat down with Antoine Randall L., former Pittsburgh Steelers, in fact, known for having one of the greatest plays of Super Bowl history several years ago. Well, Randall L. says that if he had to go back and do it all over again, he wouldn't play football. He said he played baseball and football. In fact, he got drafted by the Chicago Cubs in the 14th round, but his parents pushed him to go and play football. And he says that now, a decade later, he has, since he got out of the game, he has physical and cognitive issues that he says stems directly from his football career. So this is a guy who made a very successful living playing football that says if he had it to do all over again, he would not. He would walk away. He wouldn't play football.
But, yeah. Wow. Hope a lot of kids listen to him.
Yeah. And yesterday, Ben Carson was asked by the Hollywood Reporter about the Oscars So White controversy. The Oscar ballot, which is awfully, awfully white.
All white.
Yeah, all white. Ben Carson was asked about that, and he said that he thinks that Americans have bigger things to think about than a race-based boycott of the Oscars. He says, quote, Americans have far more important concerns than a few Hollywood elites handing themselves awards, end quote. So he's not all that concerned by it. So under a Ben Carson presidency, we can't expect that he would speak out on this.
I think he missed an opportunity there, but that's up to him. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. Ben, I was just looking on Politico. I read your story this morning about the Sarah Palin Donald Trump endorsement last night. I don't see it up on the website here. What you call your editor?
They must have realized that it was terrible and deleted
no,
it.
I thought it was a really good piece because, Jamie, if you follow me here, gravy train is the key word here. Because she's had some very, very insightful things to say last night when she endorsed Donald Trump, including her description of Democrats, I think is what people that she was talking about.
Some of them even whispering they're ready to throw in for Hillary over Trump because they can't afford to see the status quo go. Otherwise, they won't be able to be slurping off the gravy train that's been feeding them all these years. They don't want that to end.
What's she talking about? She was almost indecipherable last night, I thought.
Yeah, I've seen it just compared to avant-garde poetry. There was a lot of rhyming. You heard a little bit of rhyming in that clip. At one point she said, don't tell us to chill. It's time to drill, baby, drill down and get to work electing conservatives or something like that.
It was complete rambling, nonsensical rambling. And bringing up old phrases that she's used for almost 10 years now. Hopey-changey. She went full bore on the community organizer thing a couple of times. The drill baby drill thing she crowbarred in. It was so weird. And the thing is, Palin, I don't want to give her too much credit because she has given a coherent speech, right? When she spoke at CPAC, it was weird, but it was coherent, right? This was just completely off the rails.
Well, here's the question: why? Why would Donald Trump want her endorsement? What does she bring?
She's going against Ted Cruz, especially in a place like Iowa. She's still popular with Tea Party activists. There are a lot of people who like Sarah Palin, and especially if it's Trump versus Cruz, two outsider Republicans. Within that group, she still does hold some sway. It's not clear that this is going to be this is going to create a ton of momentum for Trump in Iowa or anywhere else. It certainly can't hurt him in the race that he's in right now.
Right. But do you think there are Ted Cruz supporters who will say, oh, well, I didn't realize Sarah Palin liked Donald Trump. I'm leaving Ted Cruz and I'm going to... Or is it more the undecideds, maybe?
I think it's more people who haven't made a firm decision yet. And polls do show that a lot of Iowa caucus goers, a lot of New Hampshire primary voters do make up their minds in the final days.
Right. You also have written, and I found this fascinating, recently about what would happen if we end up with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton being the nominee. David Brooks writes in the New York Times yesterday that means the end of the Republican Party as we know it. Your headline says, how Donald Trump defeats Hillary Clinton. Really? You think that's possible?
It's certainly possible. Is it likely? It's probably not likely. I don't think that if Trump were the nominee going up against Hillary that the bookmakers in Vegas would give him the odds. But there is a scenario, and we lay out the case as made by his campaign, some of his allies, some neutral Republican pollsters, for the scenario in which Donald John Trump becomes the 45th president of the United States.
And I'm not going to ask you who his running mate is, but I mean, what is the logic behind it? What are the arguments that they use to present him as better qualified, right, and have better skills to lead a country than Hillary Clinton? I mean, especially Donald Trump.
Sure. So from a messaging perspective, they sort of reinvent him. They would reinvent him, especially using the convention, less as a divisive figure, more as a world-renowned businessman, a family man, someone who's charitable, an entrepreneur. And that's the image that they want to take into the general election. At the same time, they do the Karl Rove gambit, which is to turn your opponent's strength into a weakness. And with Hillary, that's her gender. It's feminism. You've already seen Donald Trump's
We need a strong man for these or dangerous times, that kind of thing.
There's some of that, and there's also sort of the even bolder gambit of the Clintons' war on women, painting Bill as a serial sexual abuser and Hillary as complicit in silencing her victims, to sort of neutralize the appeal of Hillary's gender.
But if you're talking to Republican strategists who lay out this possible scenario, that means that they're coming to grips with it, or does it mean they're coming to grips with the reality that Donald Trump could be the nominee of the party?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Strategists, operatives, members of the Republican National Committee, the donor class, they're all coming to grips with this. I think that in the sort of the 8 stages of Donald Trump grief, large sections of the Republican Party are coming around to acceptance at this point.
Whoa. Boy, that's a sea change from where we started. Right? All of us talking about Donald Trump last June.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a whole psychological process that I think the entire country, or at least those of us who are tuned into politics, has gone through here. And, he may not end up being the nominee, but I think the majority of political observers accept the fact that he very well could be.
And on the Democratic side, Ben Schreckinger with us from Politico.com, of course. On the Democratic side, a Clinton spokesperson out today saying Bernie Sanders is a little bit nutty. This is the latest attack from the Clinton campaign. What the hell are they doing? We'll be right back. Talk about that. 866-55-PRESS is the number.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are 3 incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use, which is a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, here we go. Emily Kahn joins us from Mashapole at the half hour. Ben Schreckinger from Politico here. So, on the Democratic side, I mean, clearly the Clinton campaign has stepped up their comments, if not criticism, of Bernie Sanders. Here's the latest. Mike Allen reports this in his playbook this morning on Politico, where he reports that David Brock, head of Media Matters out there, is now raising the issue not only of Bernie Sanders' age, which you reported last week. Politico broke that story that David Brock was going to throw in. He's too old, right? Now, he's 74, Hillary Clinton's 68. She's not exactly a spring chicken. And the Clinton campaign said, no, we're not going to go there. So now Brock has stepped it up, as Mike is reporting, that he's suggesting that Bernie Sanders, here's a new line on Bernie Sanders, he's a socialist and a little nutty, says David Brock. Brock quoting, he's a socialist, not a Democrat. He's a 30-year history of associating with some wackadoodle, eccentric, fanatical ideas. You know, I remember David Brock wrote a book about Anita Hill, where he said she was a little bit nutty and a little bit slutty.
Wow.
All right. Is this what the Clinton campaign really wants? Is this their best line against Hillary? Does Hillary Clinton against Bernie? Hillary Clinton support this kind of personal attack?
Unclear. It's not clear whether or not he has any tacit approval from the campaign or whether
will you do me a favor? Will you go out and find out?
I'll have our Clinton people get on it.
No, I mean, somebody ought to challenge Hillary Clinton about this. This is outrageous line of attack, I believe. You know, for her, particularly for Democrats against each other. So why are they doing this, Ben? That's the question.
Well, because they're worried about Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, they're worried.
Of course.
Yeah, they're worried. You can tell, right? I mean, they're starting to really sweat. They see that Bernie's got some success, and so.
He could win Iowa. He looks almost likely to win New Hampshire. And the Nevada caucuses come before the South Carolina primaries for the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Caucus states are good for Bernie Sanders the way they were good for Obama because it requires having a sort of a passionate, organized following. So there's a plausible scenario in which he actually wins the first 3 contests. Hillary's looking much stronger in South Carolina right now than Sanders.
Yeah,
but
very strong.
if
Right.
he strings together the first 3, that may really reconfigure the race here.
And so they believe that the way to do it is to take Bernie down, I guess, huh? Which they... Isn't this... I don't know whether you were even out there on the trail in 2008, but...
No, I was
you were
in
still
high
in high
school,
school?
yeah.
Stop rubbing it in.
Man.
But you've read enough to know, doesn't this have little echoes of 2008?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, there are certainly ways in which Bernie Sanders and Barack Obama are very different. But of course, and they're making some of the same arguments that he's not electable. Will it have the same ending? I'd still put my money on Hillary Clinton, but it'll be fun to watch it unfold either way.
Yeah. Well, it's all the more fun with you, watching it with you, and we thank you so much for your time. Good luck getting back on the road. Hope we see you up in New Hampshire.
Thanks. Yeah, if I don't succumb to frostbite.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is why you took a second job. Why you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. Why you'll do whatever it takes today.
This is the Bill Press Show. We are again live with you from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Kind of quiet here in the Capitol because the House and the Senate are both out for their long Martin Luther King week vacation. They don't get just a day; they get the entire
We don't all get those long vacations
week.
like that.
And President Obama off today to Detroit to celebrate the resurgence of the American auto industry, thanks in great part to his actions to save the auto industry at the beginning of his term in office. And so more attention on the political trail, where we find Emily Kahn for Mashable out on the trail with every one of the Republican and Democratic candidates. Political reporter for Mashable. Hi, Emily. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Welcome in. Who is your favorite?
Oh, God.
I mean, not that you would vote for, but who was the most fun to cover so far?
I mean, you have to say Donald Trump, right? I mean,
right.
You go to those rallies, and it's like nothing you've ever seen before, and you meet people who you never usually meet at rallies. So, I mean, it's got to be him.
Well, were you with him in Iowa, New Hampshire, or where?
I was with him. He was at a rally in Massachusetts a few weeks ago in Lowell, Massachusetts. I was there.
So here's the question: are all those crazy people who come out for Donald Trump, are they voters or just hangers-on, right?
That's what we don't know yet, and that's what everyone's been discussing. You know, are these people who have never voted in a primary before going to vote? And I have to say, when I went out to that Donald Trump event, it was about 11 degrees outside. People were standing out in line for an hour or so. You know, they bought $20 scarves just to stay warm in this freezing weather. If they are going to go to a rally and give that much time, primary isn't that much time compared to that. So.
Oh, no. Yeah. But I'll tell you what is. An Iowa caucus is a lot of time.
Yes.
Now, it's indoors once they get inside, right? So would you say the same rule applies to Iowa caucus voters?
Iowa caucus is different. I mean, inherently, it's an insider's game, right? I mean, the Iowa caucus is you go to elect your slate of Iowa state party officials and then say, also, we like this person for president. So
there was an interesting moment last night because Donald Trump took probably 10 or 15 minutes to do his own thing before he introduced Sarah Palin, where he was talking about when you go to the polls in Iowa.
Right.
Like, he doesn't know how it works. He doesn't understand how it works.
He better.
Yeah, right. He should.
Or people working for him had better. Yeah.
You know, Republicans tell me he has an operation out there. I don't think anyone's underestimating him, because if you do, I think that's where you get caught in trouble.
Yeah.
So.
Well, of course, any comments about how well Donald Trump will do or not do in Iowa are really, have to be totally refactored today after Sarah Palin endorsed him last night. Jamie, there's so many wonderful Sarah Palin quotes from last night. How about the no more pussyfooting, right? We haven't heard that one yet. All right, here she is.
No more pussyfooting around. Our troops deserve the best. You deserve the best.
Yeah, she's got no.
I saw someone tweeted about that last night just felt like a bad acid trip. I mean, I don't. It's hard to even say what happened last night.
I still don't know what happened. I watched it. I like no drug experience I've ever had in my life rivals what I saw last night. It was stunning. It was purely euphoric. I couldn't believe it.
And like she suggested that some people may not think that she and Donald Trump are conservative enough because you got Ted Cruz who's a real Tea Partier and they're not sure about Donald Trump. Are we read enough, Jamie? Sarah Palin had an answer for that too.
How about the rest of us? Right-wing and bitter clinging proud clingers of our guns, our God, and our religions and our Constitution tell us that we're not red enough? Yeah, coming from the establishment, right.
It's hard. I'd like to see somebody try. If you were teaching English in high school, right? And say, would you parse this sentence? Would you outline
would you
this
diagram
sentence?
some Sarah Palin sentences? Your head will explode.
I mean, you have to say, we were talking about this too, that Sarah Palin, was 8 years ago at this point, and I think a lot of the,
8
older,
years of nothing.
a lot of the older Iowa caucus voters obviously remember her. But we wrote a story about just reminding people who she was. I mean, she's not on her TV show anymore. She's been out of the eye for a little. Her star has faded. I think obviously she's still a figure in, this Tea Party movement, but I don't think she's as big of a figure anymore than that she used to be.
I was saying earlier, I had the experience last night where I was at home and we had the TV on sort of in the background, and the kids, my oldest is almost 11, so he's like following this now. And so everybody in the hype was Sarah Palin this, Sarah Palin, Sarah Palin. He asked me, who's Sarah Palin exactly? And imagine having to explain Sarah Palin to someone who has never heard of Sarah Palin. Like, that was such a delight to try and explain
we wrote an explainer.
What she is.
Yeah, what happened with her. Yeah, we have that, leading our website right now because I think a lot of, first-time voters might not remember Sarah Palin at this point.
All right, so here's the question. If it's not a lot of, let's say, the establishment Republicans or sane Republicans are really afraid of what could happen to the party if it were either Donald Trump or Ted Cruz as a nominee of the party. David Brooks wrote about this in the New York Times yesterday, and others have written. Peter Wehner last week, a Republican operative, both Bush White Houses, wrote a piece from the New York Times saying why I would never vote for Donald Trump because he said he would destroy the party. He would destroy the party even more than Hillary Clinton would be able to do. So if they have their way, and if it's not Trump and it's not Ted Cruz, then who is it?
I think Rubio is still in the mix. I know that
Well, is he in the mix or is he like the most likely to be anointed candidate?
Republicans know that he is the image they want to portray. He's young. He's a minority. He is from a swing state. He's good looking. He's who you want to put up.
He has good boots.
Yeah.
His fashion sense is good. And so that's who they want. And he's still in the mix in third place in a lot of the early states. He's still in the hunt. He doesn't get the kind of attention that Cruz and Trump get because, you go to his rallies and they're just not as fun. He's the typical rally. I think that's a similar problem that Hillary Clinton's having. It's politics as usual. And in a year when you can go see a spectacle, are you really going to go follow the guy who's, saying the typical average stuff? But there's plenty of people in both parties who want someone who is the center-right, center-left person.
And would you agree, we were talking to David Jackson from USA Today a little earlier, who's in New Hampshire, and he said he thought it was Rubio, Kasich, Christie or Bush. I guess they're the only ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, but that's saying like it could be anyone. That's like everyone
right.
left. I mean,
but that means that Carly, Rand Paul, Ben Carson, Rick Santorum, Mark Huckabee, we're dismissing them, which I think we should.
Yes, I think their time has come and gone. So. And
which of them emerges, I guess, depends mostly on New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I agree with that.
Because Iowa's going to be Trump or
Iowa
Cruz.
always is. Iowa usually always picks the more right or more left person. That's just what Iowa does. A caucus draws a smaller portion of the electorate, the most fervent of either party, and that's usually what comes out of Iowa. New Hampshire that's why it's so stunning to see New Hampshire have Donald Trump be in the lead. I mean, that's not usually the mold of New Hampshire. You know? But I was at a Christie event and I spoke to people there, and a lot of the Christie supporters or Christie event goers were torn between Christie and Rubio. I think both of them kind of fit that same, they're angry enough, they're conservative enough, but they're electable. And so I think people need to figure out if they support one or the other, do they have a shot of winning?
Well, that's why Christie knows that, right, that Rubio's a real threat, which is why Christie's been dumping all over Rubio lately, accusing him of not being manly, not showing up for votes. And
Rubio's Super PAC sent out a pretty nasty ad, too, attacking Christie's record in New Jersey and the bridge stuff. And so both of them know that they're competition for each other.
It's going to be one or the other. Emily Kahn from Mashable.com. And our number, 866-55-PRESS. Your comments on any aspect of 2016. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back. You're listening to Meh in the Morning with C.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
More emails at BillPressShow.com. Don't worry, we'll keep all of our emails on a private server in Chappaqua, New York. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, you got it 12 minutes now before the top of the hour. Emily Kahn with us from Mashable before we get back to our conversation about 2016. A big announcement and a new book of mine coming up. February 2nd is release date, not in the bookstores yet, but you can order your copy today if you go to our website, BillPressShow.com. And as a big supporter of President Obama, there are still ways in which, as a progressive, I think President Obama has let us down and hasn't fought hard enough for some of the issues we believe in, even though he's accomplished a lot. Give him credit for all of that. But there are things where he hasn't pushed the progressive agenda the way we want Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton to push it one day or the next president. My book called Buyer's Remorse, How Obama Let Progressives Down. And if you go to our website, again, BillPressShow.com, right away, even before it gets into bookstores, you can get your copy. Get this. The book, signed any way you want. I'll inscribe it any way you want. Just let us know how you want me to sign it. All the postage and the taxes and everything for $27 at your door. So pick up a few, one for you and one for a few friends.
Pretty great
Order
deal.
today, BillPressShow.com. All right, Emily, let's talk about, you've also been out with Hillary and Bernie. You said something a little earlier about going to a Hillary town hall or event is kind of, right? Not that exciting. And the Bernie Sanders events, different?
It's just a different crowd, I would say. I think, the Hillary rallies, people are excited. But Bernie rallies, people are fierce. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're just as, they're calling out in the middle. They're just as angry, I think, as you see at a Trump rally. Just a different politics behind their anger.
There is an interesting parallel, isn't there, between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders? And in a sense, appealing to or reflecting the same anger, frustration among voters in both parties?
Yeah, I that's exactly what it is. I think people are just angry about everything. I mean, Bernie has tapped into the anger about income inequality. Trump has tapped into the anger about Obama, and both of the people who are fervent supporters, people who are fervent supporters of either or, are just angry. I mean, you talk to them and you even bring up electability, and it falls on deaf ears.
Well, so that's interesting, because one of the arguments that the Hillary campaign is making now, the latest argument against Bernie, is that he is not electable, which is what they said about Barack Obama, of course, as well. But then I ask you the same question about Donald Trump, which is, are the Bernie supporters going to be end up being Bernie voters, or do they just come out for a great big rally?
That's a question, too, that we don't know. A lot of them are younger. It's a lot of, we still don't know. And that's why we don't know about everything. You look at some of the polling, too. People aren't 100% decided. I think for Democrats, supporting Bernie, it's a head over heart thing. I do think people question whether a guy who, can be branded a socialist could win a general election. But are they going to make a protest vote? Do they think, I'm so angry, I just want to tell you why I'm angry and vote for him? Maybe they will.
And there are those who speculate that we may be, in both parties, facing a situation where the nominee for the party is not anyone we see right now, right? I mean, Republicans are saying if we have a brokered convention, it could be Paul Ryan, right? They end up with, or I've even heard Mitt Romney, unlikely. And I've heard Democrats say, look, if this really comes down to Bernie and Hillary the wheels start falling off the wagon, they're not going to let Bernie get the nomination. Joe Biden will jump back in.
Yeah, and I think either situation to do that is going to kill both parties. I mean, to anger the people who are the most likely to go out and vote in your party and disillusion them and feel like their vote didn't matter, they won't turn out again in November. I mean, it happened on both sides. There would be so much anger there that I think it would be even worse for either side to do that.
Right. That's interesting. So that the Trump people, the Cruz people, everybody would just say, "The hell with it all," right?
Yeah, I don't think that. Why would they vote? They just went out, voted who they wanted, and then the party decided that person wasn't electable, so they chose someone else. If you're in that situation, why do you then spend your time caring and voting if you think that the party can just decide for you who the best person is? I think on both sides that would happen.
And the Cruz-Trump battle in Iowa has really gotten pretty personal, particularly on Donald Trump's part, right?
He trolled Ted Cruz in his endorsement with Sarah Palin. He put Ted Cruz's comment about how Sarah Palin helped him get elected in that release to basically say, look how important this announcement is. Even Cruz would, say this endorsement is important. So, yeah, it's gotten pretty nasty between the two of them.
Cruz decided to take the high road on that yesterday, just saying, I still love Sarah Palin no matter what she does and everything, which is probably smart for him, right? I mean,
there's no, why start bringing that up? I mean, because we still don't know how important Sarah Palin will be. We still just don't know.
I think I know how many votes she's going to deliver for Donald Trump, but I could count them on one hand if I need even one hand. Emily, it's a lot of fun. Maybe we'll see you up in New Hampshire. We'll be up there for the primary.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Go to Mashable.com. Follow Emily Kahn, and I'll be back with today's parting shot.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. And like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, you got to admit, if there were ever two political losers who deserve each other, it's this pair, Donald Trump and Sarah Palin. Can you believe it? It makes you wonder, why would she endorse him and why would even want her endorsement? For her, the answer is easy, I think. He's getting all the media attention today, so by hooking up with him, she automatically gets back in the spotlight. For him, I'm not so sure. She doesn't bring any votes. She couldn't even deliver her own state of Alaska. In the end, perhaps each of them is just desperate to find somebody who would take them seriously, or at least pretend to. And come to think of it, they do have one other thing in common. She is the worst vice presidential candidate in history. He is the worst presidential candidate ever. Donald Trump and Sarah Palin, the perfect pair. That's my parting shot for today, folks. What fun it is. Fun to have you with us today. More fun to see you tomorrow. So come on back.
This
We'll be looking for
is
you.
The Bill Press Show.